Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Epitome of Sublime Beauty, Goku Black, and we're going to see just how good his Extreme Z Awakening is in DBZ Dokkan Battle. Now, Goku Black has been met with a little bit of backlash, and by a little bit I mean a lot. But the real question is how good is he? Now, taking a look at his stats and his passive, let's just discuss those first before we get into his performance. But he is a Time Traveler's lead, which is pretty decent. It's a decent category now. Greatly raises defense in both of his forms. In his base form he has Ki +2, attack and defense of 80%, plus an additional attack of 40% up to 120, and defense of 30% up to 60 at the start of each turn. He has the chance of performing a critical hit of plus 10% with each attack that he has received, up to a 40% crit chance, and he launches 2 additional attacks, each of which has a high chance of becoming a super attack when facing a super class enemy. He will transform if his HP is above 60% from the 4th turn onwards. He has Cold Judgment, Fear and Faith, Nightmare, Prepared for Battle, Dismal Future, Big Bad Bosses, and Fierce Battle. One thing I will say is that, honestly speaking, his link set's great and he does have a good kind of sense of progression, but the same problem that kind of plagued him when he came out plagues him now. He, in his transform state, greatly raises defense again. He has attack of 250% and defense of 150. High chance of critical hit, which is 50%, plus an additional attack of 10% with each attack performed. He's a floating support with Ki +3 and attack of 30% for extreme class units, and he launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super. If he's facing a super class enemy, he will also have another chance of a super. He has Super Saiyan and Kamehameha that replace Cold Judgment with his link set. Now, honestly, overall, Goku Black, his biggest issue is he just starts out a bit slow. Honestly speaking, I think maybe if they had just given him the full 140%, I think he would have ended up being fine. So what I mean by that is if they had just, instead of giving him 80% defense and 30%, they just given him the 140 right off the bat, I think he would have been more than fine. Like, I think at the end of the day, he would have ended up just being really, really solid. The big issue is that in super hard content, he struggles. He struggles because he realistically has to build up, and when you are facing some of the, especially the latest events, he just doesn't have that time. Now, he doesn't build up slow at all. By turn, often his 3rd turn, especially if he transforms, even against extreme enemies, he can have close to 600k defense. This is more than fine. Yes, it's not going to survive super attacks, of course, but for me it's more than fine, especially when you consider the fact that he can launch up to 4 super attacks, because you can build them full additional. And yeah, they can be, like very strong, 10 million, 50% crit chance. Like, he's very, very good in those situations. The big problem is just, unfortunately, that at the end of the day, he has a situation where he just starts out way too slow. So that's realistically his only problem. Once you can get him through that initial 2-turn phase without taking too much damage, he looks great. He really can dish out some huge damage. He's incredibly rapidly growing with his defense. So overall, honestly speaking, just considering like the passive and everything like that, he's really fine. The big issue is just that starter turn. That first turn, they just kind of addressed that a little bit more. Giving him 140% defense even, I think he would have been great. That being said, I don't find him to be as bad as people make out. I've used him in a couple of the latest hard events, and yes, I have to use items to start the battle. I understand that can be frustrating, especially when he is Rainbow. I understand there's kind of a perception that Rainbow units in the latest EZA should be top notch. I mean, and Gohan was much like that, so I do understand, and I don't want to say that it's fine just because he gets to a really good point. So I understand that's people's concerns, but outside of that, he's actually really quite solid. So once you do get him going, once I did get once I did manage to get to the that turn 5, turn 6 kind of situation, I was having a great time. It's just getting there required an item or placement or a bit of luck or using an active skill that maybe I wouldn't traditionally want to use at that point. But Goku Black's payoff was that I got a unit that did huge damage, and I mean very big damage. Even against extreme units, he has 3 super attacks, 10 million each, 50% crit chance, and that's really good. Like, because you can truly build him full additional, it's really solid. Like, it's really impressive. So yeah, I do think people were maybe a bit too harsh on him. I do think there was this feeling that he doesn't do anything, and I can understand because of how difficult events have become. And it does feel like it's a bit strange that they gave us a unit that starts out so badly on turn 1, whilst simultaneously giving us the hardest content ever on turn 1. That hits so hard turn 1. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, that's more the them thing than we can imagine. But I think, ultimately at the end of the day, for me, I think he's good. I like him a lot. I do think he's a great damage dealer. I just think, he has some caveats that you need to address, probably with an item or with utilizing positioning, or even with using like an active skill, using like an Android 17-18 active skill and things like that. So overall, still good. 10 million, 11 million attack stats, 50% crit chance. His third turn, 600k defense against super class enemies, that becomes like 800, 900. Good stuff. Just it has to get there. And it's not that it takes him too long, it's just those first 2 initial turns. Those first 2 initial turns are the hardest with Goku Black. Once you get past that stage, he's not going to fall down to normals. Yes, super attacks will give him some issues, of course. But super attacks nowadays are going to give pretty much the whole game issues. So I think the game itself has issues with super attacks. I wouldn't be surprised if a unit does a super attack and it deletes my game at this point. So it is tough from that perspective. But for me, overall, I think he's doing a really good job. And I like him. I think he's good. Super solid unit. And at the end of the day, I'm quite happy with his performance. Of course, that's just my thoughts and opinions. You're welcome to give your own, and I'd love to hear them. But for me, right now, I'm actually quite happy with the space that he's in. I think, without getting too kind of bogged down and focusing on the community's opinions and things like that, just for me, he's a fun, good unit to use. There are issues and there are going to be hard events that he's going to struggle with. I've tried to use him in some of them. I've beaten them. But yes, like I said, I have to work around him sometimes, more so than working with him. And that doesn't feel great, but I wouldn't say it's impossible to do anything with him. And I'd say when he does get going, he is a fun unit. He is really enjoyable. So that's going to be it for me. Obviously focusing in on links. So if you don't realize by now, but Cold Judgment ideally shouldn't hang around too long, so you don't want to focus on the base form. So focus on big bad bosses for the secondary form. Things like Dismal Future are going to be really solid, prepared for battle. Nightmare and Fierce Battle are all going to be your focal points. Being an extreme unit, obviously he gains a ton from link leveling. As everyone knows by now, extreme units gain a huge amount of bonuses from link leveling, unlike super units. So that's obviously a huge kind of benefit for him. So there is merit to link leveling him, and it does help him stack. You will have seen my unit get up to 1,900,000, 800k very quickly, and that is because I do have him link leveled, along top of him also being obviously rainbowed. So it is important. His linking partners are all pretty much Goku Black, Zamasus. Anything that has big bad bosses and is a Zamasu or a Goku Black is pretty much going to be a top-notch linking partner for him. you're not going to run out of options, especially nowadays with the way the celebration's gone. You should have more than enough, especially AGL Fuse Master. He's a pretty good unit that links up with him pretty well, so that's also someone that you can link him with and works out really well. Of course, the LR Rose also links up really well with him, so we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, that's gonna be it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye.